Welcome to the Essential Therapies podcast. Dr. Cindy Hodgson here. I'm an exercise physiologist and physical therapist, just with a quick check-in podcast today. And I have been having this thought run through my mind quite a bit the last couple of weeks because I've had a couple of instances where it was coming up. And that is, I often hear people talk about a pain that they're having in their body. And, you know, it's not in the studio setting where I'm kind of being asked my opinion or someone's being evaluated. So someone might just be sharing what's going on with them. And let's use the example of a knee pain. Okay, so just because someone has a knee pain, and even if they think it's from a particular injury or trauma that maybe they had even years ago, I've had things occur in my own life, my own physical body, and in my patients where I know that a knee pain isn't necessarily just something at the knee. So one of my main essential therapies is myofascial release, the John Barnes myofascial release approach, of course, and also self-treatment using those principles. And one of the main principles we talk about is that a saying that goes, find the symptom, look elsewhere for the cause. And so much of the time, this is the case. Now, it doesn't mean that it's not the case where the symptom is also where the cause is. Of course, that's often the case too. But here's something else that is always present. There's something else in the rest of the body that's also connected to that symptom location and that problem location, even if those are in the same place. Let me give you an example. Using the myofascial release approach, we are looking at the entire body because the fascia is continuous from head to toe. It is a biotensegrity structure, and I know that's a fancy word, but just think of it as a tensegrity, which is an architectural term, or I like to think of the word scaffolding because a lot of people are familiar with that word. Like think of a scaffolding that goes through an entire building, right? Well, the fascia goes through the entire body, through every single cell, connecting everything from head to toe, from our bones to our muscles to our veins, our nerves, our organs, the skin, all the things that are within us. And when there's an area that's hung up and more solidified, more like concrete, less like jello, it throws the whole system off. So this push-pull system that holds us together and gives us our shape and gives us protection then can be thrown off. And so our body does a great job of adapting to that. The problem is it does sometimes too good of a job so that over time there's dysfunction happening at a very low level that we don't notice until it's like the last straw on the camel's back, you know? So knee pain. I can't tell you how many times I've experienced knee pain, and turns out it was because of a problem in my pelvis, a myofascial problem that pulled my pelvis into a position that wasn't symmetrical, causing a wear and tear, so to speak, or a misalignment that created a tweak or a pain. There have been at least a few times in my life when I got out of bed in the morning, took a step and had sharp pain in my knee and realized, oh, my pelvis came out and I need to take some time to fix it. Get on the floor, do the techniques I need to do, get up, and then the pain is completely gone. And of course, this has happened with my patients too. As we address the restrictions in their fascial system, it balances the system and changes the mechanics at the knee. So let's take a knee that has trauma. Maybe it's had sports trauma from many years ago, or maybe even something new, or that event where you have knee pain and you know you had no trauma and you don't know where that's coming from. But even in the traumatic knee, there may be days that feel better than others, right? Well, if the system is off higher up in the chain, as we call it, if there's fascial pulling on a structure that then tweaks that femur a little bit or changes the position of the knee a little bit and creates pain, there you go. Well, what if we were able to balance the pelvis and make it so that that imbalance was not creating that tweak? You might be able to tolerate that knee pain that you had from a past trauma or an injury. I had this happen a couple of weeks ago with my hip. And it was interesting because it was my left hip, and I don't typically have issues with my left hip. But I woke up one Monday morning and I could not bear weight on my left leg without a horrible limp. I had to torque my lower extremity so that I could actually bear weight. And it was kind of frightening for a minute. And I thought, okay, what's going on? Of course, I always kind of calibrate my fear level if I have some kind of crazy pain and realize, okay, chances are I can fix this. And even if it's a traumatic thing, like from my accident last summer, I am immediately thinking, okay, what can I do to help this situation at a fascial level? So anyway, I realized I hadn't been doing quite as much self-treatment as probably I should in my pelvis. I have a couple of C-section scars there, and they often pull into my abdomen, into my sacrum and into my hip, but not usually my left hip, so it was very strange. And I spent the next few days really working on myself. I got some help from actually my son, talked him into what to do, and then also a therapist at the studio. And I was able to experience immediate change. I could feel a difference with just that little bit that we did. But there was still some issue going on. And at one point I realized, I wonder if this is some emotional thing. Because there had been an issue that came up in my personal life that I was like, that was something to deal with, something heavy to handle. And I realized that was probably a part of it as well. And just that awareness, the next time I stood up, the pain was different. How bizarre is that? But remember, we're carrying our consciousness through those fascial tubules. And even that can change the emotion, which then changes our entire system. Still, the pain was there. So over the next couple of days, I used a lot of my self-treatment techniques that I teach my patients. Several times during the day, I really took the time to feel into my body, and my goal was I really wanted to participate in this small triathlon that was happening that weekend. And sure enough, a few days after that pain started, I was feeling incredibly better, probably 80% better. And on the fourth day, I really didn't notice that I wasn't having any pain in any position. And by the next day after that, I was able to run a little bit and completed the triathlon on the weekend. So what I'd like to share and really drive home here is that just because you have a pain in your body at your ankle or your toe or your knee or your hip or your shoulder or your neck, it doesn't mean it's coming from there. And it really might be a fascial issue, a structural issue that you can manage or learn to manage, or at least get a therapist who knows how to handle this system and treat it in the right way with sustained gentle pressure, taking up the slack at the barrier and waiting long enough for that collagen to change shape. And that's really where the magic is at, and how we can get that position to change. There's lots of treatments that you can do, even body work, stretching, different techniques, but it won't stay. It's not lasting, and that's because the collagen hasn't changed. So just trying to drive this information home, it's hard to know what is helping people understand that just because you have a knee trauma, for example, it doesn't mean there isn't something you can do. If you haven't addressed your myofascial system from head to toe, found a therapist who really understands this and has given you techniques to do daily, and sometimes multiple times a day, especially if you get behind, then you haven't looked at everything. And you really could have a non-invasive way of healing this issue, giving you a chance to feel great and to do more without having maybe even extensive medication or injections, and especially surgery. So I hope this has intrigued you a little bit to explore this a little bit more. Follow my channel, check out some of my other podcasts and videos, and stay tuned as I try to make this a little bit easier to understand and just come to you from a place of being real and experiencing this stuff myself, which has really turned not only my life around, but hundreds and hundreds of patients, probably thousands, but who's counting? Thanks so much for joining, and I'll see you next time.